for this motion today.
I call the honourable member Eugenie Sage.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I'm pleased to take a call for the Green Party on the alterations to the 2013-14 appropriations and the draft budgets for 2014-15 for these three parliamentary offices, the Ombudsman, the Parliamentary Commissioner for the Environment and the Office of the Auditor General. Mr Speaker, endorsed some of the comments that my colleague Grant Robertson made, and in relation to the Ombudsman, he pointed out that there had been a 29% increase in complaints. But if you look at complaints around the Official Information Act and the Local Government and Official Information Act, there's been a 92% increase in complaints under those pieces of legislation, so that the Ombudsman now have the highest ever number of complaints about the failure to release official information in a timely manner, some 2,374 complaints. And as the Ombudsman noted in their annual report, there has been a significant increase in complaints about delay, because that's the government's strategy in making sure that the public don't get timely access to information, is just to delay and delay and delay, and then when information is released, to release the minimum. And we've seen a very worrying trend too, that requests for official information made directly to departments and ministries are routed through the Minister's office quite routinely, so you get political interference in those decisions about whether to grant access to information. So, Mr Speaker, we need greater resources than this budget is providing for the Office of the Ombudsman, given the major increase in requests for review of decisions not to release information. Would also like to focus on the Parliamentary Commissioner for the Environment, because that office was established in 1986 and its role is to investigate environmental issues, processes and public agencies. And it's got a critical role in providing independent advice to Parliament on matters that affect the quality of our environment. And its advice helps improve the quality of decisions about both law and policy. And as the Parliamentary Commissioner, Dr Jan Wright, has herself noted, that as environmental issues become ever more complex, the work of her office becomes even more complicated because there are no easy answers. But we owe her and her office a significant debt of gratitude. She appears often in front of the Local Government and Environment Select Committee to make submissions on legislation and to brief us on her reports, such as the one on land use and water quality. And I'd like to repeat the call that we've heard from others and that I made in the appropriations debate earlier this year, that government open its ears and listen to the recommendations of the Parliamentary Commissioner and act on her advice. And one of the major recommendations was a submission released yesterday on the government's environmental reporting bill. That submission identifies significant flaws in the bill. And one of the most serious flaws is the way in which the bill restricts or purports to restrict access to information on which the State of Environment reports are to be based. It overrides the Official Information Act, and it would fetter the special powers which the officers of Parliament, such as the PCE, have under their legislation to obtain information. So this bill, as drafted, would fetter the ability of the Parliamentary Commissioner to hold decision-makers to account. So that clause really needs to be changed. And that is deeply troubling because of the importance of the Parliamentary Commissioner, the Ombudsman and the Auditor General in promoting transparency and accountability in our parliamentary democracy. And another flaw in the legislation which the Parliamentary Commissioner identifies was the way in which the bill undermines the independence of State of the Environment reporting by having ministers being able to choose the topics on which reporting should occur or not occur. We need the public to have faith in any system of State of the Environment reporting. If you have ministers choosing the topics, we risk the same sort of political interference that we had with the last State of the Environment report in 2007, where the government suppressed the final chapter, and it was only the Green Party, through using the Official Information Act, that got that chapter released. So it's very pleasing that this budget provides for a $450,000 increase in the PCE's budget for the next financial year, and that's to provide for its role in reviewing and providing an independent commentary on the State of the Environment reports, and it will allow it to boost the number of staff in its office by just over 4, as well as providing some funding for expert consultants and overheads. And that's really important because the PCE's office operates on a really tiny budget of $2.4 million, and our understanding in the Green Party is that the budget will be reviewed in subsequent years to ensure that this increase is actually adequate to cope with the increased responsibilities in analysing the State of Environment reports and providing some commentary on them. And another issue where the government needs to listen to the PCE's recommendations, given the large amount of research and the independent advice which is in those reports which are tabled in this House, and that is on the issue of stewardship land. Stewardship land makes up at least a third of the land which the Department of Conservation manages, and it's got the weakest form of statutory protection, despite it having high ecological, landscape and often recreational values. And a very comprehensive report by the Parliamentary Commissioner highlighted that the original intention when the Department of Conservation was established in 1987 was that the protective status of this land be reviewed, yet successive governments have failed to do that. So that's meant that the land has never been reclassified and given the appropriate protected status which its values merit. The forests of South Westland are stewardship land when they deserve to be national park. So the government is losing the opportunity to create quite significant additions to our national parks and give proper protection to stewardship land. It needs to act with urgency on that report and recommendations of the Commissioner. We've seen better progress in relation to her report on long-finned eels, with the panel set up to review the technical information on their threat status. But we need more action because of the Parliamentary Commissioner's conclusion that there was a pathway to extinction for the long-finned eel. And finally, Mr Speaker, just commenting on the third of Parliament's officers in the Auditor-General, and to record our thanks for the major work that the office and Lynn Provost do. There was a very complex and comprehensive investigation and report late last year into the Kaipara District Council and the major failures in governance and decision-making in relation to the wastewater scheme for Mangawhai. And the report highlighted a lot of lessons for councils in the detail with which it examined that issue. There have been a lot of letters and emails to members from the Mangawhai community in relation to the way the council performed, and reading through that report is a good lesson for a lot of local authorities. So, Mr Speaker, we need to increase the budgets. There's been a small increase in the budget for the Parliamentary Commissioner. We hope that it's adequate. We suspect it may not be, but we thank and endorse the thanks that other speakers have given for the work of the Parliamentary Commissioner for the Environment, the Office of the Auditor-General and the Ombudsman. They strengthen our democracy. It would be further strengthened if the government listened and took seriously their recommendations. Thank you.
Mr Speaker.
I call the Honourable Member Tracy Martin.